Yeah, welcome back. So, y'all know every time I come back, I got an explanation for why I've been gone. There's really no explanation besides I've been a little fatigued, um, overwhelmed with work, all those type of things. So yeah, pray for me. Righteous prayers only. Anything else I reject, I rebuke, I block in the name of Jesus. So where we left off at was January 24th. We picking up January 25th on today. Um January 25th. Here we are. And we read in Leviticus chapter 11, verse 1 through Leviticus chapter 17, verse 16. Before we get started, our recap from the 24th, we read chapters 8 through 10 in Leviticus. So what had happened? Um, Moses ended up basically initiating the priests to be priests. And they end up going through this purification ceremony. Yeah, did all the things, offered the burnt offerings and stuff to purify them to make them priests. They basically end up going through this whole ceremony, ritual, whatever you want to call it. By the time we get to verse 9, God accepts them into priesthood basically, and the priest is Aaron and his sons. Aaron is Moses' brother, we know. So Aaron and two of his sons were appointed to be priests. God accepted them in. Moses gave them specific instruction. Look, you done already been initiated in. You could, excuse me, you got that oil on you. Be very careful to follow everything God tells you, or you will die. By the time we get in chapter 10, Aaron's sons end up offering up a incense offering, I want to say, to the Lord, and they did not follow protocol. They end up going to get some rinky dink fire instead of the fire that was at the altar. In this way, God felt it very disrespectful, killed them right there. Moses told Aaron and his other sons that were alive, like, look, don't show no sadness, don't tear your clothes up, none of that. Grieving over your boys. Basically, let the other Israelites in the camp grieve over them. You're not allowed to do so, or you will die. And you need to stay right here in this meeting tent. I believe that's where he told them to stay. Aaron didn't want no smoke. He complied. Yeah, and that's pretty much what happened in the recap. So I got my notes, and we reading Leviticus chapter 11 through chapter 17 on today. So for those of you who do not know, we on this 1 year reading Bible plan. Our goal is to read this entire Bible by the end of the year. We not only trying to read the Bible, but we trying to comprehend and understand what we're reading. So um for the sake of uploading this video, we have a lengthy read on today. So for Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, this may be a two-part video. Part 1, I'm going to read chapters 11 through 14. Part 2, I'm going to read chapters 15 through 17. For TikTok, as long as this video is not over an hour, this will be one video. If not, two-part for TikTok too. So, Leviticus chapter 11. Let us read. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, tell the Israelites, these are the animals you can eat. Pause. Right there in the beginning, before we get our foot through the door of chapter 11, the Lord told Moses and Aaron, tell the Israelites. So for everybody who want to, when we get deep up in this reading, for everybody who take this out of context and say, oh, don't eat that, and want to be a legalist and want to be the food police, yeah, this were for the Israelites. Now let me proceed before we get too far. Verse 3, the Lord will The Lord told Moses and Aaron, tell the Israelites, these are the animals you can eat. Verse 3, if an animal has hooves that are split into two parts, and if that animal also chews the cud, then you may eat the meat from that animal. Some animals chew the cud, but they don't have split hooves. Don't eat these animals. Camels, rock badgers, and rabbits are like that, so they are unclean for you. Other animals have hooves that are split into two parts, but they don't chew the cud. Don't eat these animals. Pigs are like that, so they are unclean for you. Don't eat the meat from these animals. Don't even touch their dead bodies. They are unclean for you. Pause. Now, hooves. What is hooves? Hooves is the hard, protective covering that is on the foot of an animal, basically. So when God say the hooves that split in two, He talking about the hard part, like on the horses. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And He said chew the cud. What is chewing the cud? Basically, this is when the animal slowly chew their food. And partly digest the food over and over again before they finally swallow it. So some of them, they will chew the food, take it down, bring it back up, re-chew it to make sure it's finally, they will do that. So God said the animals that had the hard protective cover on the feet and they chew the cud, meaning they slowly over and over again partly digest their food, you can eat from that animal. Yeah, some of them had the hooves, but they don't chew the cud. Some of them chew the cud, but they don't have the hooves. He said, no, they gotta have both. Can't have one without the other. Verse 9, you may eat everything that lives in the sea or in a river that has fins and scales, but you must not eat anything that lives in the sea or in a river that does not have fins and scales. Just the thought of eating such a creature should make you sick. This will never change, so don't ever eat meat from anything like that. Don't even touch its dead body. It is a sickening thought for you to touch anything that lives in the water that does not have fins and scales. What is fin? What is a fin? A fin is that little part of the fish body that stick out into the water and helps the fish balance and move in different directions. That's what a fin is. The scales is the thin plate that cover or protects the fish's skin. So yeah, that's what that is. Also in this section, I wanted to address the this a never change statement. So what God meant when He said, just reading in context what He said by this will never change, mind you, in the beginning of chapter 11, He said, tell the Israelites. Who are the Israelites? The Israelites are descendants of Jacob, which had the name change Israel. Israel had 12 sons. All those 12 sons had kids. Those are the descendants of the Israelites. So before you say, I can't eat this, or the Bible said you ain't supposed to eat this, ask yourself, am I a Israelite? Am I a descendant of Jacob? You don't know that. It's hard to detect. So, when it comes to this Mosaic law, these when God giving them what to eat, what not to eat, how to be clean, and all that type of stuff. So this basically was to keep those Israelites separated and recognizably different from surrounding cultures. But this Mosaic law or covenant is superseded or replaced by the new covenant that you and I have today with Jesus Christ. And it changes how these laws are applied today. So, yeah, Old Testament, Old Covenant doesn't really apply to you. Thank God for Jesus, because there's some things in a sea without fins and scales that I like to eat. Praise the Lord. Verse 13, you must also treat some birds as things that are wrong to eat. Stay away from them. It is a sickening thought for you to eat any of these birds: eagles, vultures, buzzards, kites, all kind of falcons, all kind of blackbirds, ostriches, nighthawks, seagulls, all kind of hawks, owls, cormorants, I think that's what that says, great owls, water hens, pelicans, carrion vultures, storks, all kind of herons, hoopoes, and bats. Verse 20. Don't eat insects that have wings and crawl. Even the thought of eating them should make you sick. But you may eat insects if they have legs with joints above their feet so they can jump. You may also eat all kinds of locusts, all kind of winged locusts, all kind of crickets, and all kinds of grasshoppers. But stay away from the other insects that have wings and crawl. They'll make you unclean. If you touch the dead bodies of these insects, you will become unclean until evening. If you pick up one of these dead insects, you must wash your clothes. You will be unclean until evening. Verse 26, some animals have split hooves, but the hooves don't make exactly two parts. Some animals don't chew the cud. Some animals don't have hooves. They walk on their paws. All these animals are unclean for you. If you touch them, you will become unclean until evening. If you pick up the dead bodies of these unclean animals, you must wash your clothes. You will be unclean until evening. These animals are unclean for you. Pause. So, days, chapters ago, we talked about the clean and the unclean thing. Back in Mosaic covenant with the Israelites, these laws were set in the whole clean and unclean thing. It was set in place because for the protection of the sanctuary, to keep the sanctuary pure and holy. So being unclean will carry consequences like you being separated and not able to worship in a ceremony with everybody else. You had to be set away for some times until you get it together. Things that'll make you unclean is stuff like touching a dead body, or touching a dead body of an unclean animal, or bodily discharge, infection, mold, mildew, even touching somebody who came uh, coming across somebody touching them who were unclean will make you unclean. So yeah, that was the whole thing. Yeah, like we said, Old Testament. Um, verse 29. These small animals are unclean for you: moles, mice, all kind of great lizards, geckos, crocodiles, lizards, sand reptiles, and chameleons. Whoever touches their dead bodies will be unclean until evening. If any of these unclean animals dies and falls on something, that thing will become unclean. It might be something made from wood, cloth, leather, or sackcloth. Whatever it is or is used for, it must be washed with water. It'll be unclean until evening. Then it become clean again. If any of these animals dies and falls into a clay dish, anything in the dish should become unclean, and you must break the dish. If water from the unclean clay dish touches any food, that food will become unclean. Any drink in the unclean dish will become unclean. If any part of a dead unclean animal falls on something, that thing is unclean. It may be a clay oven or a clay baking pan. It must be broken into pieces. These things will remain unclean. They will always be unclean for you. He said, get rid of it. Verse 36, a spring or a well that collects water will remain clean, but anyone who touches the dead bodies of any unclean animal in that water will become unclean. If any part of a dead unclean animal falls on seed that is to be planted, that seed is still clean. But if you put water on some seed, and if any part of a dead unclean animal falls on those seeds, they are unclean for you. Verse 39, also, if an animal which you use for food dies, whoever touches this dead body will be unclean until evening. If you eat meat from this animal's body, you must wash your clothes. You will be unclean until evening. If you pick up the dead body of the animal, you must wash your clothes. You will be unclean until evening. You must treat, hey, y'all go to bed. Time to go to bed. My bad, y'all. You must treat all the crawling animals that live on the dirt as disgusting things that you must not eat. You must not eat any other reptiles that crawl on their bellies or that walk on all four feet or that have many feet. Don't eat these animals. Don't let them make you filthy. Hold on. I don't know that. Where we at? You must not become unclean, because I'm the Lord your God. I am holy, so you should keep yourselves holy. Don't make yourself unclean with these crawling things. I, the Lord, brought you out of Egypt so that you could be my special people and I could be your God. I am holy, so you must be holy too. These are the rules about all the tame animals, birds, all the animals in the sea, and all the animals that crawl on the ground. These rules will help the people know which animals are unclean and which animals they are allowed to eat and which ones they cannot eat. Pause. So for anybody who had the question like, well, what could we eat? Like I said, this is the law for the Israelites for the sake of purification and holiness. Um, but if you ask yourself, like, what can we eat? I say be led by the Holy Spirit. Follow your own convictions when it comes to what you can eat and what you cannot eat. That's something telling me not to eat this. Listen to that voice. That's the Holy Spirit saying, yeah, stay away from it. It might be good for them, but it's not good for you. So yeah, uh, you're not to be putting your convictions off on anybody else because we don't know. Something might be good for us, but it might not be good for somebody else. It might be good for somebody else, might not be good for us. We are called to live in peace with everyone. So arguing about what to eat and what not to eat, yeah, stop the legalism and follow the Holy Spirit. Amen. Uh, Chapter 12. The Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites, when a woman gives birth, she will be unclean just as she is during her monthly time of bleeding. If the baby is a boy, the mother will be unclean for 7 days. The baby boy must be circumcised on the 8th day. Pause. What is circumcised? Circumcised is a surgery to remove the skin that covers the tip of the penis, which is a male's private part. For those of you who do not know, even children, we're accommodating anybody. For those of you who don't know, verse 4, because of the blood from childbirth, another 33 days must pass before she can touch anything that is holy. She must not enter the holy place until the time of her purification is finished. But if she gives birth to a girl, the mother will be unclean for 14 days, just as she is during her monthly time of bleeding. Because of the blood from childbirth, another 66 days must pass before she becomes clean. Verse 6, after the time of her purification is finished, the new mother of a baby girl or boy must bring special sacrifices to the meeting tent. She must give her sacrifices to the priest at the entrance of the meeting tent. She must bring a 1-year-old lamb for a burnt offering and a dove or young pigeon for a sin offering. If the woman cannot afford a lamb, she may bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons. The one bird will be for a burnt offering and one for a sin offering. The priest will offer them before the Lord. In this way, the priest will make her pure, and she'll be clean from the blood of childbirth. These are the rules for a woman who gives birth to a baby boy or baby girl. So what just happened? Basically, we talked about the whole clean and unclean thing. Childbirth will cause a woman to be unclean. Why? Because blood is coming out of the body. So she will be separated for some time. After the separation period is over, she will bring her sacrifice to the Lord, and she also has to go through that purification process to finish up the being clean thing. So yeah, that's what that's saying. Chapter 13, and it reads, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, someone might have a swelling on their skin, or it may be a rash or a bright spot. If that sore looks like the disease of leprosy, the person must be brought to Aaron, the priest, or to one of his sons, the priest. The priest must look at the sore on the person's skin. If the hair in the sore has become white, and if the sore seems deeper than the person's skin, it is leprosy. When the priest has finished looking at the person, he must announce that the person is unclean. Pause. So, what is leprosy? Leprosy was a long lasting, hard to put an end to, but curable infectious disease that affected the skin, the outer nerve, the upper respiratory tract, which is the nose, the mouth, the throat, the voice box, the sinus, all that. It also affected the eyes. That was leprosy. And the part where it say when the priest has finished looking at the person, he must announce that the person is unclean. What is announce? Announce means to make a public known. Make something public or known. You ought to tell everybody this person is unclean. They were very strict about the purification of the sanctuary. So yeah, Heavy on announce it. Verse 4, how you walk around sick out, they weren't doing none of that. You need to tell somebody. Priest going to examine you. You don't tell them, the priest will tell everybody. Like, you got to be set apart. Get that together. Verse 4, sometimes there is a white spot on a person's skin that does not seem deeper than the skin. If that is true, the priest must separate that person from other people for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest must look at the person again. If the priest sees that the sore has not changed and has not spread on the skin, he must separate the person for 7 more days. 7 days later, the priest must look at the person again. If the sore has faded and has not spread on the skin, the priest must announce that the person is clean. The sore is only a rash. After washing the clothes, that person will be clean again. But if the rash spreads over the skin after the person has shown themselves to the priest to be made clean again, that person must come again to the priest. The priest must look, and if the rash has spread, he must announce that the person is unclean. The disease is leprosy. Whoever has leprosy must be brought to the priest. He must look at that person. If there is a white swelling on the skin, if the hair has become white, and if the skin looks raw in the swelling, it is leprosy that has been there for a long time. The priest must announce that the person is unclean. He does not have to wait until after the period of separation, because he already knows that the person is unclean. You already know what's going on. They unclean. Verse 12, sometimes the skin disease is spread all over a person's body, covering the skin from head to foot. The priest must look at the person's whole body. If the priest sees that the skin disease covers the whole body and that it has turned all the skin white, the priest must announce that the person is clean. But if the skin is raw, that person is not clean. When the priest sees that the raw skin sees the raw skin, he must announce that the person is unclean. The raw skin is not clean. It is leprosy. Verse 16, if the raw skin changes and becomes white, the person must come to the priest. The priest must look at the person. If the skin has become white, the person who had the infection is clean, and the priest must announce this. So just like you announce unclean, announce clean. Verse 18, someone might get a boil on their skin that heals over. Pause. What is a boil? A boil is a painful, pus-filled bump that forms under the skin when bacteria infect and inflame the hair follicles. That's what a boil is. Verse 19, then that boil might become a white swelling or a bright white spot with red streaks in it. If this happens, the person must show that spot to the priest. The priest must look at it. If the swelling is deeper than the skin and the hair on it has become white, the priest must announce that the person is unclean. The spot is leprosy that has broken out from the inside the boil. Verse 21, but if the priest looks at the spot and there are no white hairs in it, and the spot is not deeper than the skin but is faded, the priest must separate the person for 7 days. If the spot spreads on the skin, the priest must announce that the person is unclean. It is an infection. But if the bright spot stays in its place and does not spread, it is only the scar from an old boil. The priest, must announce that the person is clean. Verse 24, someone might get a burn on the skin. If the raw skin becomes a white spot or a white spot with red streaks in it, the priest must look at it. If that white spot seems to be deeper than the skin and the hair at the spots has become white, it is leprosy that has broken out into a burn. The priest must announce that the person is unclean. But if the priest looks at the spot and there is no white hair in the bright spot, and the spot is not deeper than the skin but is faded, the priest must separate the person for 7 days. Excuse me. Verse 27. On the seventh day, the priest must look at the person again. If the spot has spread on the skin, the priest must announce that the person is unclean. It is leprosy. But if the bright spot has not spread on the skin but has faded, it is only a scar from the burn. The priest must announce that the person is clean. Someone might get an infection on the scalp or beard. A priest must look at the infection. If the infection seems to be deeper than the skin and if the hair around it is thin and yellow, the priest must announce that this person is unclean. It is a serious skin disease. If the disease does not seem deeper than the skin but there is no dark hair in it, the priest must separate that person person for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest must look at it again. If the disease has not spread and there are no yellow hairs growing in it, and the disease does not seem to be deeper than the skin, the person must shave. But the diseased area should not be shaved. The priest must separate that person for 7 more days. On the seventh day, the priest must look at it again. If the disease has not spread and does not seem deeper than the skin, the priest must announce that the person is clean. After washing those clothes, that person will be clean. But if the disease spreads on the skin after the person has become clean, then the priest must look at the person again. If the disease has not spread, the priest does not need to look for yellow hair. The person is unclean. But if the priest thinks that the disease has stopped and black hair is growing in it, the disease has healed, the person is clean, and the priest must announce this. Verse 38, that's right. Verse 38. If anyone has white spots on the skin, a priest must look at them. If the spots on that person's skin are dull white, the disease is only a harmless rash. That person is clean. A man might begin to lose his hair on his head. It's only baldness, so he is clean. A man might lose hair from the sides of his head. He is clean. It's only another kind of baldness. But if there is a red and white infection on his scalp, it is a skin disease. A priest must look at him. If the swelling of the infection is red and white and looks like the leprosy on other parts of his body, then he has leprosy on his scalp. The person is unclean. The priest must announce that he is unclean. Verse 45, people with leprosy must warn other people. They must shout, unclean, unclean. They must tear their clothes at the seams. They must let their hair grow wild, and they must cover their mouth. They are unclean the whole time that they have the infection. They are unclean and must live outside the camp. Paul, so when it say, look, tear your clothes, make it known that you are unclean and you're sick, you need to be separated away from people. Verse 47, some clothing might have mildew on it. The cloth could be linen or wool, woven or knitted, or the mildew might be on a piece of leather or something made from leather. If the mildew is green or red, it must be shown to the priest. The priest must look at it and put it in a separate place for 7 days. On the seventh day, he must look at it again. It doesn't matter if the mildew is on leather or cloth, or if the cloth is woven or knitted, and it doesn't matter what the leather was used for. If the mildew has spread, the object is unclean because of the infection. The priest must burn it, do away with it. Verse 53, if the priest sees that the mildew did not spread on the object, it must be washed. It doesn't matter if it is leather or cloth, or if the cloth is knitted or woven, it must be washed. He must order the people to wash it. Then he must separate the clothing for 7 more days. After that time, the priest must look at it again. If the mildew still looks the same, the object is unclean. It doesn't matter if the infection has not spread, you must burn the cloth or piece of leather. Verse 56, but if the priest looks at that piece of leather or cloth and the mildew has faded, he must tear the infected spot out of the piece of leather or cloth. It doesn't matter if the cloth is woven or knitted, but the mildew might come back to that piece of leather or cloth. If that happens, the mildew is spreading and the object must be burned. But if the mildew did not come back after washing, that piece of leather or cloth is clean, whether the cloth was woven or knitted. These are the rules for mildew on pieces of leather or cloth, whether the cloth is woven or knitted. So these are the rules for infections and baldness and skin disease and leather and all this. Like I said, uh in the Mosaic law, they were trying to protect the holiness of the sanctuary, the purification. They trying to protect that of the sanctuary. So anything that did not align with holiness and purification, do away with it, separate, get yourself together, and you come back. You make sure you had to be separated for some time, and then when you come back, you either have to offer an offering, you got to wash your body, wash your clothes. You're gonna have to do something to seal the deal for that purification process. But yeah, this is how it went. um Old Testament, chapter 14, and this is our last chapter for part one. The Lord said to Moses, these are the rules. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm in my notes. Okay. These are the rules for people who have a skin disease and have been made well. These rules are for making them clean. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Wait a minute. That's the list, y'all. Don't mind her. A priest must look at those who had the skin disease. The priest must go to them outside the camp and look to see if the skin disease is healed. If they are healthy, the priest will tell them to do these things. They must bring 2 clean birds that are still alive, a piece of cedar wood, a piece of red cloth, and a hyssop plant. Pause. What's a hyssop plant? A hyssop plant is a blue like, purplish like, good smelling herb plant flower in the mint family. It was used for food and medicines. That's what a hyssop plant is. Verse 5, then the priest must order 1 bird to be killed in a clay bowl over running water. He must take the other bird that is still alive and the piece of cedar wood, the red piece of cloth, the hyssop plant, and dip them in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water. He must sprinkle the blood 7 times on those who had the skin disease. Then he must announce that they are clean. After that, the priest must go to an open field and let the living bird go. This was part of the purification process to make them clean. Why? Because the Lord said it. That's why. Verse 8, the people going through this purification ceremony must wash their clothes, shave off all their hair, and wash with water. Then they'll be clean. They may then go into the camp, but they must stay outside their tent for 7 days. On the 7th day, they must shave off all their hair. They must shave their head, their beard, and their eyebrows. Yes, all their hair. Then they must wash their clothes and bathe their bodies in water. Then they'll be clean. On the 8th day, anyone who had a skin disease must take 2 male lambs that have nothing wrong with them and a 1-year-old female lamb that has nothing wrong with it. They must also take 24 cups of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering and 2/3 of a pint of olive oil. The priest must bring that person and those sacrifices before the Lord at the entrance of the meeting tent. Excuse me. This must be the same priest who announced that the person is clean. The priest will take one of the lambs and the oil as a guilt offering. He'll lift them in front of the Lord to show they were presented to God. Then the priest will kill the male lamb in the holy place where they kill the sin offering and the burnt offering. Like the sin offering, the guilt offering belongs to the priest. It is very holy. The priest will take some of the blood of the guilt offering. He will put some of this blood. Hey, go to bed. Y'all got school tomorrow. Sorry, y'all. The priest will take some of the blood of the guilt offering. He will put some of this blood on the tip of the right ear of the person to be made clean. The priest will put some of this blood on the thumb of the right hand and on the big toe of the right foot of that person. The priest will also take some of the oil and pour it into his own left palm. Then the priest will dip the finger of his right hand into the oil that is in his left palm. He'll use his finger to sprinkle some of the oil 7 times before the Lord. Then he'll put some of the oil that is in his palm on the person to be made clean. He'll put that oil on the same places he put the blood of the guilt offering. The priest will put some of the oil on the tip of the person's right ear, on the thumb of the right hand, on the big toe of the person's right foot. He'll put the oil that is left in his palm on the head of the person to be made clean. In this way, he will make that person pure before the Lord. Then a priest must offer the sin offering to make that person pure. After that, he will kill the animal for the burnt offering. He will then offer up the burnt offering and a grain offering on the altar. In this way, the priest will make that person pure and that person will become clean. A person might not be able to afford all these things, so that poor person can use 1 lamb as a guilt offering. It'll be presented to God so that the priest can make that person pure. So when they say a person can't afford all these things, that means the lamb, the fine flour, the everything that is required for a sacrifice. This is the alternative, basically. The poor person must take 8 cups of fine flour mixed with oil. This flour will be used for a grain offering. The poor person must also take 2/3 of a pint of olive oil and 2 doves or 2 young pigeons. Even poor people can afford these things. So this is easily accessible. You can do this. so that you can still participate in the atonement. One bird will be a sin offering, and the other will be a burnt offering. So, atonement is accommodated for no matter what kind of tax bracket you're in. Verse 23, on the eighth day, that person will bring these things to the priest at the entrance of the meeting tent. These things will be offered before the Lord so that the person can become clean. The priest will take the lamb for the guilt offering and the oil, and he'll lift them up to show they were offered before the Lord. Then he'll kill the lamb of the guilt offering, take some of its blood, and put it on the tip of the right ear of the person to be made clean. The priest will put some of this blood on the thumb of the right hand and on the big toe of the right foot of this person. He will also pour some of this oil into his own left palm. He will use the finger of his right hand to sprinkle some of the oil that is left in his left palm 7 times before the Lord. Then he'll put some of the oil that is in his palm on the same place as he put the blood from the offering. He'll put some of the oil on the tip of the right ear of the person to be made clean. The priest will put some of the oil on the thumb of the right hand and on the big toe of the right foot. He'll put the oil that is left in his palm on the head of the person to be made clean. In this way, he will make that person pure before the Lord. This is the purification process. Then then the priest must offer one of the doves or young pigeons. He must offer whichever the person can afford. He must offer one of these birds as a sin offering and the other bird as a burnt offering. He must offer the birds with the grain offering. In this way, the priest will make that person pure before the Lord, and that person will become clean. These are the rules for making people clean after they become well from a skin disease. These are the rules for those who cannot afford the regular sacrifices for becoming clean. This is protocol. Verse 33. The Lord also said to Moses and Aaron, I'm giving the land of Canaan to your people. Your people will enter that land. At that time, God said, I might cause mildew to grow in someone's house. The person who owns that house must come and tell the priest, I see something like mildew in my house. Verse 36, then the priest must order the people to take everything out the house before he goes in to look at the mildew. Then the priest will not have to say everything in the house is unclean. After people have taken everything out of the house, the priest will go into the house and look at it. He'll look at the mildew. If the mildew on the walls of the house has holes that are green or red color, and if the mildew goes into the wall surface, he must go out of the house and lock the house for 7 days. So this is the house going through a purification process. Verse 39, on the 7th day, the priest must come back and check the house. If the mildew has spread on the walls of the house, then he must order the people to tear out the stones with the mildew on them and throw them away. They must put these stones at a special unclean place outside the city. Then the priest must have the entire house scraped inside. The people must throw away the plaster that was scraped off the walls. They must put plaster at the special unclean place outside the city. The new stones must be put in the walls, and the walls must be covered with new plaster. Do it over, especially that spot. Verse 43, maybe someone took away the old stones and plasters and put new stones and plasters, and maybe mildew again appears in the house. Then the priest must come in, check the house. If the infection has spread in the house, it is a disease that spreads quickly to other places, so the house is unclean. The house must be torn down. Dismantle it. All the stones, plasters, and pieces of wood must be taken to a special unclean place outside the city. Anyone who goes into that house will be unclean until evening. Anyone who eats in that house or lies down in there must wash their clothes. After new stones and plasters are put in the house, the priest must check the house. If the mildew has not spread through the house, the priest will announce that the house is clean because the mildew is gone. Then, to make the house clean, the priest must take 2 birds, a piece of cedar wood, piece of red cloth, and a hyssop plant. He'll kill one bird in a clay bowl over running water. Then he'll take the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the piece of red cloth and the living bird and dip them in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water. Then he'll sprinkle that blood on the house 7 times. And this way he will use these things to make the house clean. So this is the sacrifice to purify this house. Verse 53. He will go to an open field outside the city and let the living bird go free. In this way, the priest will make the house pure. The house will be clean. These are the rules for any infection of leprosy, for mildew on pieces of cloth or in a house. These are the rules for swellings, rashes, or bright spots on the skin. These rules teach when something is clean and when something is unclean. These are the rules about these kinds of disease. And that's it for the first part. Y'all come back for second part.